Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the July Los Altos Government Affairs Committee. We're so excited to see you today. Personal note, it's my parents' 48th wedding anniversary today. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Who would have thunk I would not. But we are so excited. We have a great presentation today. We're going to start with introductions. So like I do popcorn style, get ready to unmute yourself. I'm Diana Batista. I am with Lucille Packard Children's Hospital, Stanford. We are going to go with Kathy.
Okay, I'm Kathy Kameen, and I am the Director of Finance at Los Altos Community Foundation.
Welton.
Good morning, I'm Welton Jordan. I'm the Chief Real Estate Development Officer for EAH Housing. Nice to meet everybody.
Awesome. Nice to meet you. Michael.
I'm Michael Murphy. I'm a Rolfer in private practice. My office is in Loyola Corners.
Roy.
Hi. So two people you see, Penny and Roy, we're both retired and beach walkers.
Awesome. That's my dream. Anthony.
Hi, this is Anthony Carnesecca, Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Los Altos, an aspiring beach walker in the future. So.
Very good.
By my estimate, I think I maybe have like 25 years until I can do that. So unless I win the lotto. Mayor.
Good morning, everybody. Nisa Flagger, Mayor of Los Altos. Happy to see everybody. Thank you.
And Kim.
Good morning, Mayor Flagger. Good morning, everyone. Kim Mosley, President of the Los Altos Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. And we have Steve Pratt, who's going to tell us a little bit more about himself and EAH Housing. But EAH Housing is a nonprofit affordable housing developer that has been selected by the County of Santa Clara as the developer for a property located at 330 Distel Circle here in Los Altos. And they're going to start doing a series of information gathering and really want to hear from the community. And I feel like this is probably one of the first stops in your tours. So we're so excited to be here and have you speak to us. So Steve, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I'm Steve Pratt with EAH Housing. I'm Business Development Manager, and I focus on acquiring new properties and bringing new properties into the pipeline. This property that we are talking about today, 330 Distel Circle, we, as Diana mentioned, was an RFP process that was put out by the county. And we applied to that process, and we were awarded earlier this year on the process for that development. And then now, as we go through this, we really are engaging with the community. We are introducing ourselves as EAH, the developer, and we're having conversations around affordable housing and more specifically 330 Distel Circle. And we really want to get feedback from the community. We want to hear everybody's comments. We want to hear about the development. We want to hear about anything that you guys want to ask us. We're happy to be transparent and provide you some information on either about EAH or affordable housing or 330 Distel Circle. And with me, obviously, is Welton Jordan. He's here to support me and to work with me and to answer any questions you guys may have. And with that, so I have a oh, am I able to share my screen? It looks like it says I was disabled. Do you guys have the ability to
yeah, that should work now, Steve. Try that.
Okay, let's see. And is that working? Are you looking at the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm going to just give you a history about EAH. It's about a 10-minute presentation, and then we'll turn towards 330 Distel Circle, talk about some of the higher level concepts at this point, and then we can open it up for Q&A and further discussion. So EAH, we've been around over 50 years. We started back in the late 1960s, a time when this country was mobilizing and demanding social justice, economic equality, and civil rights and fair housing. And the EAH grew out of that activism. We responded to these demands, and as well as the death of Martin Luther King Jr. A group of individuals got together in Marin County, which is where our home office is located, and they formed what's now known as EAH. And it was clear to our founders at the time that housing is the cornerstone to equitable and inclusive and sustainable communities. But if you fast forward 53 years later, the struggle continues, and we find ourselves still again in the midst of a housing crisis and an even greater need to build inclusive communities that are welcoming to everybody, regardless of your race or your economic status. From our very small beginnings, or our very humble beginnings, we have grown over the last 50 years. We've done this through public-private partnerships, and we now have significant capacity and depth of experience to share with these communities that we work with. We operate in both California and Hawaii. And since 1968, EAH has developed over 100 residential and mixed-use communities. It has a combined value of over $2 billion, and we currently manage over 13,000 units within 87 different municipalities through these 2 states. We have communities that range from low-density rural complexes in Northern California all the way up to a 32-story high-rise tower in Honolulu. We have communities for older adults, large and small families, veterans, people with disabilities. We also include student housing, permanent supportive housing, and affordable workforce housing. Also equally important is the long relationship that we have within Santa Clara County, and we own or manage 26 different affordable communities within Santa Clara. We advance our work through 3 fully integrated divisions within EAH. On the development side, we're obviously focused on putting the physical building together, getting it through entitlements, construction of the building, as well as financing that construction. The property management side and their oversight is top notch, and they're really focused on the operating efficiency of this community over the long term. It's our intent to build and hold on to and own this property indefinitely. We're not really looking to ever sell these properties. We try to keep them within our portfolio forever. And so the asset management and property management side over that time, they also keep us in compliance, which is very important. And then the resident and community service times, they're really at the core of the mission of EAH. And these teams, they partner with our communities, they collaborate with these partners, and they also help the residents to get the housing and to maintain their housing, keep their housing stable, as well as helping them live independently while they're in our communities. Our capital partners are currently deploying about $1 billion to advance EAH's current pipeline. This is an addition to the $2 billion portfolio we have. And then of relevance to Distel Circle. So last year in 2020, the state through HCD awarded over $110 million to EAH, specifically for ground up constructions. This will finance more than 740 affordable units in 10 different communities. This comes from programs, and the HCD is kind of an alphabet soup. So they have AHSC, which is Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities, MHP, IIG, No Place Like Home, VHHP, which focuses on veterans, and Joe Cerna, which focuses on farm worker housing. The HCD has a whole bunch of different programs, and EAH uses these programs in their capital stack as we look to finance these communities. Our property management team provides comprehensive management services. We do have an in-house management arm within EAH. Our portfolio reflects best practices in the management of these deed-restricted communities, and we really are welcoming the integration of the supportive housing into the fabric of the larger rental community. For 330 Distel Circle, it will be staffed by EAH staff. We will have an on-site resident manager, and we will also have dedicated maintenance staff. At EAH, we believe that sustainable communities are those that provide opportunities for everyone, regardless of your economic or social background. Our resident services teams are aimed at supporting housing opportunity and stability. And so through EAH's Stay Well program, we work to develop relationships with local stakeholders that are already in place within the community. We form partnerships with existing service providers. We're not really looking to come in and reinvent the wheel here. We really want to be additive to a system and an infrastructure that's already in place within the community. As I touched on earlier, we are focusing on community engagement now. We feel that community engagement is very, very important in this process. We are reaching out to several different groups, such as this one, throughout the Los Altos community, and again, both to inform people who we are and what we do. We also want to inform them about the proposal that we're putting forward for Distel Circle. But more importantly, we really want to receive some feedback and talk about challenges and issues and things that we want to talk about with 330 Distel Circle and the affordable housing in general. And then the information that we gather from the community will be put together and will be part of what we ultimately put forward to the Los Altos Planning Department. So our value proposition here as EAH, we are heavily focused on active community engagement up front. This will help create a beautiful and inclusive, affordable rental community for Distel Circle, and it's going to be held within this sustainable and cost-efficient building. As you see here on the screen, 330 Distel Circle is this parcel that's outlined in the fuchsia or light purple. It is next to the Palo Alto Medical Center on Distel Circle. With our KTGY as our architect, and so it's KTGY, and with them, we've started to think about the site itself. We start thinking about the constraints, how big it is, how tall this building can go. As you may know, this is a site that's being purchased by the county. Mid-Peninsula Open Space District is currently is the owner currently, and they occupy the building. And the county is purchasing this site from them. But there's an MOU between the county and the city that's suggesting that this site should be able to house about 90 units. And so we think about how do we get 90 units on the site, and we work with our architect and start talking about how tall the building's going to be, what is parking going to look like, construction flexibility. I mean, how can we be innovative? How can we hopefully shorten the construction process, maybe make the site a little bit cleaner? And then, of course, we'll have some eyes on sustainability. But one of the innovative concepts that we've been talking about is a concept of vertical parking. This is a mechanized system. It's effectively like a car elevator. You drive in on the ground floor, you get out of your car, leave your car, and then the system will take it. It's called the puzzler. I think that I always say that because I think that's very key to understanding how this works. This system will just take your car and place it in any open parking storage space. But this system allows us to eliminate the need for parking podiums. So these concrete 1- or 2-story concrete parking structures, basically on the ground floor, which ultimately would result in a higher building if we didn't have this structure. But as you see here in the center top of this diagram, this does have the ability for this system to be removed at a later date, and potentially more units could be added. Now this is thinking out in the future when we get to a point, if we get to a point, or when we get to a point of really not needing cars, and when everybody doesn't need their own car, we don't have the dependence on automobiles. Another concept we're looking at is kind of stick built. So the way that you build buildings, you see everybody putting a piece by piece on site, and then compared to off-site construction. So having a unit built in a different part of the state or another state and then have it trucked in and shipped in. And so these modular sites, these modular units, as they're trucked in, they really they help keep the timeline of the construction shorter, right? So we can have a lot of the production going on offsite and the trucked in. They can stack these up. They truck them in, they stack them up, and that actually happens fairly quickly. There is some on-site construction still happening, but it's a lot less than traditional. So when we think about the construction of this building and we think about the impact for the local neighborhood, this process will help minimize the dust and the dirt, the construction traffic, the noise, and also can shorten that timeline a bit. And then we're also, one of the other concepts we're looking at is something called mass timber, or CLT, which is cross-laminated timber. Again, similar to modular construction, this allows the ability of significant pieces of the building to be built off a site and then trucked and then put together on site. The CLT is great because it allows us to really, it's the combination of the CLT and the parking that's going to allow us to eliminate that the ground floor concrete podium. And again, there's a lot of time savings in this. There's a lot of construction site, like it's not impactful to the neighborhood. But CLT also gives that, if you remember the other picture that I just showed, it has a lot of wood, exposed wood on the ground floor, and it gives this building a really warm feeling, a lot more natural feeling. And as we go through this process, we are getting a lot of positive feedback from people as they look at the building and you get this nice warm feeling. A lot of that's coming from this the CLT look. And then finally on sustainability, so we'll have photovoltaic solar panels on the roof. We also potentially might have some solar panels that'll help preheat some of the water. We're going to be looking at a bicycle-friendly environment. This site is half a block off of El Camino Real. There are bus services on El Camino Real, and so if we can develop a bicycle-friendly community here with bike parking, we feel that the ability to have the bicycle-friendly environment next to El Camino Real with public transportation is going to help eliminate or reduce the need for dependence on an automobile. Okay, so our timeline here. So June and July is when EAH is coming in and doing our community engagement that the county has already started. They've had a couple public meetings already, the county and the city, I should say. They've had a couple public meetings specifically for 330 Distel Circle. Those are available if you want to watch them on the city's website. And so through June and July, EAH is having meetings like this. We're engaging with the community, looking for feedback. We are also going to be having a couple community forums, we're calling them, that they're going to be open to the larger public. It won't be as targeted as this group here. And we will be having those on August 12th and September 9th. And those meetings will be, again, opened up to the entire community. And we're looking for more feedback. The second one, for both of these, really, we're looking for the feedback, but the second one's more going to be focused on design of the building and whatnot. And once we get all the feedback from the community, we will put this together. We'll work with our architects, and then we'll put together a formal entitlement application to the city of Los Altos. The city will then process that application. We will go through a series of official public meetings. So we'll have a couple planning commission meetings. We'll have a couple city council meetings, all open to the public, all available for public input. And then that'll finish with hopefully the city council approving the project, and then we can move forward. So that'll be a formal conditional use permit, and we will have our ability to move forward with the project. Then we'll turn back to the architect and have them start doing the construction drawings for the building. That takes a bit of time, but all this while we're putting together financing. We're working with the county and with the city, and then this will partially be funded by tax credits, so the federal tax credit side. And then in about 2 years, we should have everything put together, both on the planning and building permit side and the financing side, and we can start construction. A conservative construction time frame is about 18 months. Might be a little bit longer, but we'll have to play with that, depending on 18 to 24 months is a general time frame about how long these buildings take. And then for lease up and occupancy, that's fairly short. Their demand for these units will be 10 to 1, 50 to 1. So we should be able to do a marketing and a lease up plan and have this building occupied. So if we can go through this timeline, we can keep to this timeline, we should have this building occupied and built and occupied in 2025. So with that, thank you for your time, and I would like to open it up to conversation. Happy to answer any questions you guys have. Yeah. So
great.
And thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. That was really informative. I know there were questions in the group. If you do have one, feel free to just either raise your hand or type it in the chat box, whatever makes you comfortable. Roy.
So Steve, how large is the site?
The site is, don't quote me on this, but it's about 0.85, 0.87, somewhere there. So it's less than an acre.
And so is housing your organization a nonprofit?
We are, yeah, correct.
Is this session being recorded?
Yes.
And the tax credit, how can you explain the tax credit financing to us?
Sure. So we're a nonprofit. We come forward to the state of California. So the state of California has a California Tax Credit Allocation Committee. They award these tax credits to affordable housing developers such as ourselves. And there's a whole bunch of housing developers similar to EAH who does this throughout the state of California. And we get awarded this. We're a nonprofit, so we do, but we don't generally pay taxes, right, on our profit. So when we have these tax credits, what we do is we end up selling them to an investor. These investors typically tend to be large banks. All the large banks that you've heard, the national banks that you've heard of, they will purchase these credits, and then they can use them to offset their taxes. So just like you or me or anybody else, we have taxes. We make $100. We owe $20 to the federal government. We can either pay them the $20, or we can go buy a credit, and that credit will offset that $20 in taxes. That's what this tax credit is doing. So we end up turning around and selling these to investors, and then we will use that money as part of the capital stack to put this building in the ground and into use.
So I may have missed it. This is a senior development, seniors. Just
we haven't decided on the population yet who's going to be living in the building. We do, EAH does senior housing, but we haven't decided on the exact population for this building. It's too early in the process for that.
okay, thanks.
Sure.
At what point in the timeline, is it during the construction process or the financing process where you get to set your price point on your BMR rates? Like, at what point is that happening?
That's a great question. Thank you. So early in the process, we have a range. We have an idea of what we're shooting for. For right now, that is 30% of AMI up to 80% of AMI. And so that's the range. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we can certainly provide that to you guys if people have questions on exactly what that means. But I've heard from the city and the county in their presentations that are online that we're talking things in the $35,000-$40,000 range on the low end, up to maybe about $100,000. But all of this changes not on a per person basis, but it's really on a per family basis. So as the family size changes, the income range changes as well. So obviously a single person or a family of four, their income would change, but they could still qualify for whatever, 30%, 40%, 50% of the AMI. So we do have that range. Tax credits don't really allow us to go above 80% at all. And even if we go into the 80%, we need to do some averaging. So there's a lot of technical pieces around the AMI levels and the income levels and the rents being charged. But generally that's where we're at.
Steve,
Thank you.
Steve, if you don't mind if I did pull it up real
Please.
quick, just for your own.
Okay.
So if you're looking at a 2-bedroom apartment for a 60% AMI, that's about 22, right now it's 22.38 a month for Santa Clara County. And the 30% for a 2-bedroom is a little bit over 1,100 per month. And these are set by HUD. So HUD releases the income and rent levels, and then TCAC pushes those out, and we're kind of bound to those. And there'll be an affordability restriction placed on the land for at least 55 years.
Thank you. Michael, you've had your hand raised.
Yes. When I hear housing discussed around town, often people are saying, where can our firefighters live? Where can our emergency responders live? Where can our teachers live? Will your project have an impact on those populations?
Yeah, and thank you for that. So again, the HUD is setting the income levels, the size of the family, the bedroom count. So really it's gonna come down to what each individual person earns and how big their family is. So I can't say absolutely yes, but they do. So entry level, and especially like elementary schools, I've heard that elementary school teachers and entry level positions, firefighters and police, that's probably, I've heard other people say that, the entry level, even the firefighters and the police and the first responders, they might not qualify, but depending on their family size. And so that's where it's kind of a gray area, because if it's just a single person, they might qualify, but if they have a family of 3 or 4, they might qualify with one income. But if it's a single person, they potentially wouldn't qualify, depending on what their entry level salary was. But we're also talking about retail employees. We're talking about, the person who's going to take your blood or your blood pressure at the doctor's office. We're talking about people who work at the farm stand, people who work at your local grocery store, bus boys and waiters at your local restaurants. So we're talking about people who are already in the community and are working here, but potentially are driving 2 and 3 hours to go back to their home at the end of the day. And so it is hard to nail down and say yes or no to a specific job category, but hopefully that gives you some insight of the people that will qualify. So
again, I'll jump in with the AMI levels, so it gives you a little bit more context. So again, for a family of 4, which is kind of the middle, 60% AMI is $99,005 for a family of 4. And for a 30% family of 4, it's a hair under 50,000. So that's kind of the swath. And then again, I think Steve talked about some 80% AMIs. The income averaging thing is the IRS hasn't quite caught up to it yet. Probably by the time, this one comes to fruition, they may, but an 80% AMI, just again, for purpose of the discussion, is $132,560 for a family of 4. So you're really looking at even at 60% AMI, you're looking at a pretty wide range of incomes that can be served at the property.
So Marie and then Roy.
Okay. A comment and a question. I was under the impression that this was really aimed at the homeless or near homeless population and helping getting people off the streets. Is that not correct?
That is correct. Part of the population. So part of our capital stack, let me back up a bit, part of the capital stack is funded by the county through Measure A dollars, when they have $950 million to put towards housing. This is back in 2016. And so they still have some of that money available, and that money is going for the acquisition of the land and to help fund the capital stack for building the building. That funding source does look for permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing. So you are correct. We don't have the numbers yet of what the percentage will be, but that is a population that we're definitely.
So it's a
looking at.
percentage, not the whole 90 units, probably.
Yeah, it's very unlikely to be 100%.
Okay, that was supposed to be the comment. It turned into a question. So
okay.
With the tragic collapse of that condo building in Florida in mind, I'm just wondering what's your history and research on some of the innovative materials that you're considering using in terms of safety? And here we have earthquakes to deal with, as well as, we don't have hurricanes and stuff like that, but.
Right. No, understood. I'm sure that's on everybody's mind these days, ours included. And I'm not an engineer and I'm not an architect, so I can't really speak to a lot, but I'm sure that this is something that everybody's looking at. And the structural engineers are looking at these things and have worked with these products before. It'll be part of the entire process of getting this building constructed and making sure that it's safe.
And our fine city inspectors will probably be watching a lot. So.
Yeah, if they're really new, it's great. You've got to start someplace, but then we don't have a history, and things don't tend to fall down on day 2. Unless it's really shoddily done, which you wouldn't do. I understand that. But if we don't have a history with these things, then we don't really know how they're going to hold up under terrible circumstances.
So Maria, I'll jump in again. It's, as I think as Steve kind of mentioned, everything is done per, California building code, which will address a lot of the seismic issues. We still have to dig into the soil. There's still a lot of testing we haven't done. We're in the very, very early stage. And cross-laminated timber has been used in other states effectively over time. And it's kind of working its way into California. And again, we're not locked into it. It's an idea. Yeah. It's something that we're trying to, figure out. Things just are very expensive nowadays. So we're trying to look for alternatives to concrete, alternatives to traditional building materials. And we'll see what we get when we get a lot closer than we are now.
Yeah, no, I'm all for innovation. It's just, sometimes it's risk versus safety and all of that kind of stuff, which I'm sure you're well aware of.
Right.
No, thank you.
So all of the construction, the various alternatives you laid out, they're all wooden construction, right? This is a 5-story building. You can build 5 stories with a wooden construction, which I think is a lot safer in our communities than the podium and reinforced concrete. My question is selection. Does the community have any role in the selection process, in the criteria for selection of tenants?
So a lot of that is driven. A lot of the tenancy is driven by our funding sources, and that's the world of affordable housing. Every dollar we have has a string attached. So we do want input on who's going to live there, and there are different subcategories of tenancy, but in terms of if you're asking the physical selection of this person gets an application and then we send it out to say, hey, is this who wants to live there? I'm not sure how we could reasonably do that, but if I'm misunderstanding the question, let me know.
Yeah, no, so I wasn't so much talking about individuals as criteria.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, I mean, we definitely have parameters that we can't get out of because of the low income housing tax credit program and Measure A and any other funds we receive from the county. But we definitely want to hear from the community. You know, I think was mentioned about the permanent supportive housing, and then what else? You know, so I think we're kind of looking for the what else. You know, what else is the community looking for here, out besides the homeless housing?
See, I have a feeling that our dilemma is that the people that the fire, the police, the retail, et cetera, make too much money to qualify, yet they don't make enough money to live here. So I'm very pessimistic about our ability to really solve our own problem with this kind of project.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I mean, remember, we're not trying to solve all the world's problems. This is just one small piece of it. This is one piece. The part that you're speaking to is, we call it the missing middle, and that is exactly the issue. When you have a market rate developer come in and buy land and construct a building, at the end of the day, they're going to rent them out or sell them at a premium. That's going to be the high end of the market. And on our side, we're at the affordable side, and we're tied to these incomes and rent restrictions. And so everything in between, we call it the missing middle. And you're right, that is another issue. That's another concern. We're not really designed to solve for the missing middle. We're working on that as well through mixed income projects, but this project really is focused on the 80% and below AMI.
Follow up to that, Welton or Steve, is priority generally given to those that are either currently living or working in the community or neighboring community to that housing development?
So due to fair housing, it's difficult to make that direct distinction. A lot of the times we do, there are ways to approach it that we have to kind of be careful with our attorneys, just to stay on the right side of, you know, a fair housing lawsuit. The county, if we're going to talk about what we do know, is the county has its own kind of coordinated entry system. So we have to work, you know, really closely with the county. And I think they've been successful at kind of, you know, keeping a local lens on who lives in these areas or who lives in these developments. And I would say also kind of from a natural standpoint, from my experience, a lot of the people who move into these developments typically live either here or very close to wherever it's built, because most folks aren't really trying to relocate from, you know, somewhere very far to another place that they don't work. People typically want to be close to work and school. So, you know, it's a long answer to say we still don't know yet. This is something that we try to do. There's also kind of affirmative marketing, but you know, there's lottery systems. Every county does it a little bit differently, but we've had these conversations. We've had these conversations with city council and staff in the county already. So we do understand it's important to try to house as many people who live and work in Los Altos as possible. So that's what we're going to try to labor to do, but we can't guarantee it today.
And maybe I should also add, in the MOU between the county and the city, and because this parcel is currently owned by the Open Space District, there is a desire to put a few of these units for the employees of the Open Space District. So that is part of it. So there will be some local set aside, but there won't be a lot of units, but there will be a few of them for that.
There was a comment, Justina, Steve, and Welton in the box. A thumbs up for mass timber. Sustainable alternatives to cement is a good thing. And then there was more about the building in energy efficient housing is the right thing to do. We need to not only reduce energy use for global warming, but also from a perspective of making housing affordable. So there you go. Are there any other questions or comments from the group? And this is just, again, one of your many. So you said your next presentation is going to be August?
So we're going to do two community engagement forums, community forums on August 12th and on September 9th. They're going to be in the evening. We haven't nailed down the time exactly yet, but they're going to be probably 6, 7, 8 o'clock, somewhere in that frame. My guess it'll probably start at 6. We're hopefully through this group here, we'll be able to advertise, but we're going to be advertising through lots of different channels, be on the city, be on our own website, be on social media. And so we're going to try to push out those 2 meetings, and then we'll have a third one, which is kind of an open house discussion roundabout of what we've heard. And then well, like I said, we'll enter into a series of public meetings as well, planning commission meetings and city council meetings. And really those, so we definitely want the feedback, we want the input from the community. And if you're, you can come out and voice your opinions during those public meetings as well. Really, we're trying to do our community engagement up front so we can hear all the issues and talk about all the issues before we get into the full-blown public meetings with the city council and the planning commission. But I just recognize that this is your time within your community. This is a building that's going in your community, and that's your time to voice your opinion to your elected officials to hopefully support this project and get this type of housing in the neighborhood. So, I encourage you guys to come out and make your comments known to your elected officials.
So the meeting in September is on my birthday, so feel free to have a cake, just to start off the meeting.
Are those meetings on Zoom or are they in person? Or do you know yet?
Thank you. Yeah. The first 2 are going to be on Zoom. When we started the planning process here, we hadn't really opened up communities yet, and we weren't really sure how it was going to play out. So for planning processes, we really wanted just to nail that down and have it be over Zoom. But we recognize the need and the desire for everybody to get together in the same room. So that was one of the reasons why we decided to do this third meeting, this open house, the meet and greet. We can talk in person. And that third one, that open house, is planned to be in person at this point.
Council member.
Thank you. Stephen Welton, thank you both very much for the presentation this morning. I'm sorry I was a little bit late. I miscalendared the seminar. Could you talk a little bit about the life cycle of the project once it's complete? Will it be affordable housing for its entirety? How long does EAH generally stay involved in a project? Will at some point you flip it? Will at some point it become market rate housing? Just kind of how does a project like this mature?
Sure. So I'll take that one, Steve. So yeah, we'll be involved in our 53-year history. We've never sold affordable housing developments. It's not what we do. So once we're here, you're kind of stuck with us, if you will. It will be affordable, for perpetuity. I'm not sure the lease with the county. It'll probably be at least 75 years. And the affordable housing covenant that we get from the state is typically at least 55 years. So you're looking anywhere from 55 to 75 years. And not to get too far into our world, but about 15 years from the date of kind of place in service, once it's leased up and stabilized, we have an opportunity to refinance it, or what we call re-syndicated. That's when you do repairs. It's not always done in 15 years, but that's kind of that's the tax credit compliance period for the investor. Excuse me. And then essentially what happens in 15 years is we re-extend that 55-year affordability covenant starting from year 15. So it's almost like as long as the program stays the way that it's currently structured, you're really looking at perpetuity affordable housing, for as long as us and, our children will be around.
Great. Thank you.
And we'll own, operate, and manage. So we'll build it, we'll own it, we'll operate it, we'll manage it. And again, if you guys have any questions, I think you have Steve's information. Please work through him. If you need to contact me, I'm also available.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the group? No, but I expect you're going to have a lot more as you progress. So thank you so much for coming online today and speaking to us. This was really informative, and we're going to be watching this for sure. So thank you so much. Kim, any announcements for the group?
Sure. I just was thinking it might be helpful if Steve or Welton could place a link to those future events, maybe something that you have on your website or email, so that each of us can share that with our networks, because I think that would be really helpful. We have a good hub of attendees here with tentacles into the community, and I think they can share that information widely. So thank you, Steve and Welton, for your presentation this morning. We really appreciate it. And with that, just a couple of announcements. I have placed a link in the chat as well for our golf tournament. If you're feeling like getting outdoors now that the weather's nice and our restrictions have been pulled back a bit, we are having our chamber golf tournament on August 30th. So if you'd like to either come and golf or be a sponsor of that event, it's a fundraiser for the Chamber of Commerce. The last year plus has been a challenge for the chamber as well, as our small businesses have struggled. It's put us in a bind financially as well. So we appreciate your support of the chamber.
And developers can definitely play a round of golf if they're so inclined.
Absolutely.
I love golfing.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful course. It's probably one of the most beautiful courses on the peninsula, and a private club that we typically don't have access to. So it's a great day on the course for a good cause. We have a barbecue in the evening as well if you're not a golfer but would like to come and join us anyhow. So we're looking at a networking event still for the end of July. So stay tuned for that. We'll send you some additional information. But that's really all I have this morning.
I'm looking at the link now. Oh, sorry.
If anyone from the group has a quick announcement, we have time for that. If not, no worries. We have our meeting again next month. We have an agenda set for the next 2 months, I think. So we're going to keep rolling. Any just quick announcements from anyone? Okay. You all get a rousing 10 minutes back in your day. Thank you so much for coming today and for your questions, and as always for being members of the chamber. So thank you and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you all.
Take care. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you, Steve. Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
thanks.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.